Hello and welcome. I'm the Big Shot Critic, and today we're soaring like an eagle. True story. Eddie the Eagle is an outstanding feel-good movie. When I put it on for this review, I was in kind of a bad mood, but by the time it was over, I was in a much better mood. Not because it was over, but because it's a feel-good movie. Eddie the Eagle is based on the life of Eddie Edwards, an Englishman who competed as a ski jumper in the 1988 Winter Olympics. What makes his story unique is the long odds he faced to get there. In both the movie and real life, Eddie had knee damage, extreme farsightedness, a relatively heavy build for a ski jumper, and a total lack of sponsorship. And on top of all this, he started ski jumping when he was 22. That's very late for a ski jumper. Eddie is played by Taron Egerton, and he does such a good job. Taron got his big break just the year prior in Kingsman: The Secret Service, where he had the lead role. His character in Kingsman was stylish and smooth and gets recruited to join a secret ring of super spies. This put Taron squarely on the road to leading man territory. All the more funny then that his next role was Eddie Edwards. Hardly stylish and smooth, the real Edwards endeared himself to the world with his underdog antics. He once ran into a glass door in full view of the world's press while at the Olympics. The fact that Taron would not only take the role, but take to it with such enthusiasm, says a lot about his maturity as an actor. It's very common for actors to have very inflated egos after their first leading role. There are those who would turn their nose up at a role like Eddie Edwards. Take Rupert Wyatt, for example. He directed Rise of the Planet of the Apes for Fox in 2011, and it did better than expected, but he turned down the directing job for the sequel. Now, the official reason was because he was uncomfortable with the shooting schedule, but because of all the praise that Rise got, I always felt that he thought he was going to move on to bigger and better things. He thought he was a big shot now, and when it came to his next directing job, he would have the pick of the litter. Now, you see this a lot where people get a little success and then get choosy. I think he was being too choosy for the amount of success that he had achieved. He probably also didn't want to be remembered as the Planet of the Apes prequel guy. I predicted then that he couldn't afford to be that choosy, and sure enough, he hasn't directed anything of consequence since then. And it didn't do him any favors either that he was replaced by Matt Reeves, who gave us Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. Easily two of the best movies of their decade, completely upstaging Rupert's first movie. But back to Taron Egerton in Eddie the Eagle, he didn't get too choosy, and it paid off. I guarantee you, playing Eddie the Eagle is what got him the job to play Elton John in Rocketman last year. Eddie the Eagle was directed by Dexter Fletcher. Dexter Fletcher took over directing duties on Bohemian Rhapsody when Bryan Singer left. That's how Dexter Fletcher got the job to direct Rocketman. And where did he go for his leading man? Right back to Taron Egerton, his Eddie the Eagle star. The moral of the story? If you ever become a successful actor or director, don't be a snob. Some of you may have observed that Eddie the Eagle is not the only inspirational, feel-good sports underdog story about getting to the 1988 Winter Olympics. Cool Runnings is a movie from 1993 about Jamaican sprinters who lose their chance to go to the Olympics as sprinters, so they form a bobsled team to go to the Winter Olympics instead. Like Eddie, they faced many obstacles on the way. Matthew Vaughn, the producer of Eddie the Eagle, was watching Cool Runnings with his kids, and they asked him, why don't people make movies like that anymore? He thought that was a good question. There was a script written for Eddie the Eagle as far back as 2007, when Steve Coogan was attached to star in a much more comedy-focused version of Eddie's story. Thankfully, that didn't happen. Eddie the Eagle remained unproduced until Matthew Vaughn bought the rights as a direct result of watching Cool Runnings with his kids. I'd say he was very successful, as I consider Eddie the Eagle the spiritual successor to Cool Runnings. And there's a reference to Cool Runnings that you can catch if you stay on your toes. I first heard of Eddie the Eagle back in 2015 when Hugh Jackman started sharing set photos on Instagram. I was surprised I hadn't heard of it, and when I looked into it, I found out that that one guy from Stardust, another movie I love, was directing. And Matthew Vaughn was producing. He had been on my radar since 2006. You see, Casino Royale from 2006 is my favorite movie of all time. It was Daniel Craig's first Bond movie, and everyone says that he got the role because of a movie called Layer Cake from 2004. Matthew Vaughn directed Layer Cake. Matthew Vaughn went on to direct Stardust, which, as I said earlier, is another movie I love. Then he got the job to direct X-Men First Class, a project I had been following since way back when it was originally conceived as X-Men Origins Magneto. Eddie the Eagle was a convergence of all these careers I was following, and I loved it. I still watch it once or twice a year. It's beautifully shot by George Richmond. The colors are beautiful, the shots always feel balanced, and it never looks flat. Honestly, I don't know very much about lenses and lighting, but the movie is just really easy on the eyes. It's beautiful enough for me to want to mention it, and that's more than most movies. And the music. Oh, the music. Now, I've mouthed off on this channel before about how soundtracks of the last 15 years generally, suck. Remember when soundtracks were good? Remember when the music in movies was allowed to make you feel something? Remember when movies didn't sound exactly the same? I do, and I miss those days so bad. So does Dexter Fletcher. Mercifully, he let his composer, Matthew Margeson, run wild. You're supposed to feel melancholy in this scene? He can make that happen. The audience needs to feel elated here? He can do that. It's set in the 80s? No problem. The music is bold, it's in your face, and it's not afraid to grab your attention. Why can't people just let film composers do their job? Music can make movies so much better. The only real argument I've ever heard in favor of more muted soundtracks, pun intended, is that it's somehow more respectful of the audience. You see, music can have a powerful emotional effect on people, so some people say a more subtle soundtrack means less emotional manipulation. Well, why do you think people go to the movies in the first place? Movies are all about emotional manipulation. What is a movie, if not a directed emotional experience? Movies don't stick with people because of a certain line of dialogue or a certain scene. They stick with people because of the way they make them feel. So please, save your argument about emotional manipulation. Music can tap into people's feelings faster than any other filmmaking tool. For heaven's sake, use it. Eddie the Eagle does, and I love it. Good job, Matthew Margeson. But the most impressive thing about Eddie the Eagle is the way it adapts the true story. There are different schools of thought when it comes to adapting a true story, and they are notoriously hard to adapt. The most common method is to be a stickler for accuracy when it comes to all the key events in a subject's life and the order in which they happened. After that, you just try your darndest to fit it into a couple hours and try to make some thematic sense out of it. In my opinion, this method doesn't really work. It always leads to tonal problems and themes stretched so wide that they lose all their impact. Two examples that come to mind are Everest and Unbroken. Everest was the true life story of a bunch of hikers being led by professionals to the top of Mount Everest in 1996. Crazy things happened. It's easy to see the temptation to make a movie out of it, but the events depicted are tragic in most cases and miraculous in a couple other cases. It's hard to stretch your theme far enough to draw meaning out of both when you only have 2 hours to do it. Unbroken was the true story of Louis Zamperini. This guy ran in the 1936 Olympics, where he met Adolf Hitler, served in World War II, where he was shot down over open water, and survived 47 days in a survival raft on the ocean. And he spent the rest of the war in a Japanese POW camp, where he was brutally picked on by an infamous Japanese war criminal. Again, not hard to see the temptation to make a movie, but you have the same old problems. Tonally, the Olympics portion will feel like a different movie any way you slice it. And no single theme will be recognizable when you stretch it far enough to cover all 3 stories. The result of both of these movies was a powerful but somewhat directionless experience. When you try to stretch your theme out like that, it's like a blanket that's too short for you. You can have your feet covered, or you can have it all the way up to your chin. But you keep trying to do both, and it's frustrating. But there is another school of thought for adapting true life stories. Eddie the Eagle uses it, and I think it's superior. The real Eddie Edwards cried when they showed him the finished movie. He also said it was only about 5% accurate. How could both of those things be so? The second method involves sacrificing accuracy. But where you sacrifice in accuracy, you gain tenfold in impact. Fudge a detail here, mix a couple side characters there, and you end up with a more focused story, aimed right here where you want it, at the audience's heart, their emotions, right where you want to make a difference. That's what a theme is for. That's what a theme does. It focuses every element of a story, every line, every character, every setting, every sound effect, every performance. It aims them right at the audience's emotions. It's tailor-made to deliver a particular emotional experience. When you hear people talk about the audience going on an emotional journey with the protagonist, this is what they mean. This is how it's done. All the other elements of filmmaking are the ingredients. Theme is the recipe. The flavors you taste in a well-prepared dish are like the emotions you feel in a well-made movie. They come at the right time and in the right combination to form a positive experience.
To do this. And this year it's 61 meters, next year it'll be 71 meters, then it's too late.
The reason I bring this up in a review for Eddie the Eagle is because this movie does that so well. It's very focused. It knows exactly where it wants to take you, and it knows exactly how to get you there. Guys, I give Eddie the Eagle 10 out of 10 commandments. It kept the 9th one. Thou shalt be memorable. Watchability is a big thing for me. It's not an aspect of movies that I talk about much, but I think Eddie the Eagle is probably the most watchable movie in my collection. Hence, I put it on once or twice a year. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Eddie the Eagle. Like the video if you liked the video, and subscribe for more content like this. Bye-bye.